In my previous video, I went over the candidates of who the first person was to fall under our modern definition of a YouTuber. But I kind of just glossed over the very first ever YouTube channel, opting instead to talk about the history of the site as a whole. And honestly, what would be the point of just reiterating what thousands of other YouTube video essayists have said before? Don't get me wrong, it cannot be overstated enough the importance of the first ever YouTube video, Me at the Zoo. It set the foundation for what would become everything we know and love about YouTube. But for as important as this video is, it's strangely never really been the subject of any of YouTube's anniversaries. Usually we get the YouTube Rewind instead, but even those have started to fall by the wayside as public perception surrounding the celebration has, needless to say, changed. In fact, these days, you typically don't hear a lot from Jawed at all. He's not very prominent on social media and chooses instead to live a fairly private life, which is perfectly fair enough. For one of the guys who invented one of the biggest websites known to humankind, and the launching pad for oh so many people's careers, he doesn't seem to be all that public of an individual. On his YouTube channel, only one video remains, the aforementioned first ever YouTube video, Me at the Zoo. But that wasn't always the case. The Jawed channel used to host a whole variety of other early internet videos, from just travel vlogs to, were pretty much just snippets from his life, if I recall correctly. There wasn't really a precedent yet for what it meant to be a YouTuber. A lot of these now privated videos have been re-uploaded by other channels, but a good chunk of early Jawed content is now lost to the void that is time. Time keeps going. We don't get any younger. Where did all the time go? Lost media in recent years has become increasingly popular, as there is a certain thrill to trying to find something that has little to no evidence of having ever existed, or more accurately in this case, things that we know to have existed at one stage or another, but are simply no longer accessible for one reason or another. Remember when your high school teacher would tell you that anything you put on the internet would be there forever? Ha! Well, eat that, Miss Robinson. Now, I cannot overstate this enough, or fully put into the right words, but Me at the Zoo is a video that I absolutely adore. Not just for what it represents, but how simplistic it truly is. Jawed Karim once said that the inspiration for YouTube first came from being unable to find clips of Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction online during the 2004 Super Bowl performance, and later, clips from the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. This led to the idea of a video sharing website. Me at the Zoo is not just an iconic part of internet history, but it truly encompasses the potential that the site would go on to have for the everyman to become celebrities in their own right. Granted, things are a lot different on YouTube now than even 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, YouTube used to be the place you'd go to for quick, digestible content that was under 10 minutes in length, and that was the standard. The focus was on quality over quantity, simply because you only really had those 10 minutes, and in some cases, not even that. Of course, short-form content still exists on the likes of TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and before that, Vine, but there truly is no denying that early YouTube was unique and something to be admired. When you're watching a mansion tour or some large YouTuber with a massive budget and huge teams of people working for them, it feels less accessible and relatable than a bunch of friends just goofing off and making cringy skit comedy or riffing over video game footage. That's not to say that I don't see the appeal of watching those types of videos, but to see that, whether we like it or not, it represents the current YouTube, it's hard not to feel nostalgic for when that wasn't the case. Today, content is blasted in your face all the time, every second of the day, And it seems like everybody is attached to their phones, which I'm not judging. I am a part of that everybody. The strange thing is that I often find myself browsing my subscriptions, recommended, and when I'm really desperate, even the trending tab. And despite the fact there are literally millions of videos that should interest me, I just find myself thinking, man, there's nothing to watch. See, I like to think that we're all in one big metaphorical zoo that is the World Wide Web. A literal web even, but not actually a literal web. That we're like tangled in, competing in, to be the best, to get the most eyeballs onto us. People come to the zoo and they can see us in our natural habitats, or at least what we choose to show from our day-to-day lives, cause no one really shows their failures on social media. The system is built in such a way where you're constantly having to put out content like a machine, like clockwork. The system inherently sabotages the mental health of its biggest creators with burnout and the like, something we've heard more than often. Perhaps by observing the creatures in this metaphorical zoo, we're learning things from them that we can apply to our own lives. It's ironic because we paradoxically and simultaneously believe through parasocial relationships that we know internet celebrities like they're our own friends, yet we also believe we can strip them of their humanity and right to make mistakes in the public eye. It's complicated, to say the least. Technology is a whirlwind, and social media, parasocial relationships, it can all get very toxic if we let it. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's go back to this simple video. This simple video where a man stands out in front of an elephant enclosure at the San Diego Zoo and proceeds to tell about the elephant's long trunk. Going back to the very beginning, way before YouTube, Jawed Karim was born on October 28, 1979, in Merseburg, East Germany. He crossed the inner German border with his family in the early 1980s after growing up in Neuss, West Germany. Jawed moved his family to St. Paul, Minnesota in 1992, and having graduated from St. Paul Central High School in 1997, he started attending the University of Illinois. He left campus prior to graduating to become an early employee at PayPal, where he'd create their anti-fraud system, as well as meet Chad and Steve, and work with them on what would become YouTube.
Once upon a time, there were two young lads who created the greatest platform for sharing videos online the world has ever known. This is their story.
You know, Steve, we've got a lot in common. We both think about business, and we both love food.
I sure hope we can come up with a good business idea soon. I wish our friends could watch us chomp on these burritos.
Focus, Steve. We need a big-time business-ish-like idea.
Man, if I can make a business, I make it a business to show our friends how hard this burrito rocks.
I know. We could open a restaurant where people can come and watch each other eat.
Yeah, that's a pretty businessy idea.
Hey, after this, let's go grab some donuts and do some more businessing.
He continued his coursework, earning his bachelor degree in computer science, and subsequently earned a master's degree in computer science from Stanford University. So, what has become of Jawed since that original video? Well, after co-founding YouTube, he enrolled as a graduate in computer science at Stanford. When the site eventually launched, he opted not to be an employee, but rather an informal advisor because he wanted to focus on his studies. As a result, he took a much lower share in the company when compared to the other two co-founders. After YouTube, Jawed started University Ventures, or Y Ventures. The company would work to help students and first-time entrepreneurs. And in 2009, he was one of the first investors in a little-known company called Airbnb. But online, he seldom made an appearance. A few times he'd pop up on his YouTube account, once to complain about Google Plus when YouTube was trying to forcefully integrate that to no avail, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you can occasionally see him commenting on random small YouTube videos out in the wild. No significant changes had really been made to the Jarwood channel until, miraculously, in March 2021, the description of me at the zoo changed. After years of the description saying, "Perhaps we should go back to the zoo," the description now read, "We are still working on the part 2 video." Seeing this for the first time ever was both exciting and shocking to me. What on earth was he talking about? Was there more to the original video, or perhaps, was he planning on going back to the zoo and shooting a modern version of the original video? Something of a sequel or tribute 16 years later? Sure, it'd probably seem mundane and silly to the average viewer, but the idea that such an iconic part of YouTube history, the person responsible for our modern understanding of online video, could be making a follow-up video 16 years later and over a decade after he stopped uploading altogether, well, that sounded pretty cool to me. Going on a little bit of a tangent, it's always been a guilty pleasure of mine when films or television shows do throwback episodes where they redo iconic moments from a different angle, or biopics that reenact iconic video moments from a celebrity's life. There's entire channels dedicated to those types of comparison videos, and to me it's truly fascinating to see the great lengths people will go to just for the sake of nostalgia. Due to this description, I suspected that perhaps a new video would appear on the channel during the anniversary of YouTube. So on April 23, 2021, at 8:27 PM, accounting of course for the time zone difference, I tuned into the Jarwood channel and nothing. To say that I was disappointed is an understatement. From then on, the description simply read, "While you wait for a part 2 video, listen to this great song," and a link to a cover of Donkey Kong Country. It was certainly a nice enough cover song, but it just left more questions than answers. So I decided to start digging through the Wayback Machine, and realized pretty quickly that this wasn't the first time the Jarwood channel had teased a comeback. Back in June 2018, he created a community tab poll that asked if he should make a new video, and when the overwhelming majority naturally said yes, he created a follow-up poll asking what genre the new video should be. Of course, nothing came of that poll, and it left me to wonder, was Jarwood just messing with us the entire time? Outside of speculative YouTube videos, his occasional comments on YouTube, and the few appearances he makes editing Wikipedia articles, there wasn't really much to go off of. The unfortunate reality that set in for me when I reached dead end after dead end is that Jarwood simply may not even have access to the Jarwood channel anymore. You see, going through the various iterations of the original video over the years, through the Wayback Machine, you'll see that the description keeps changing. In 2006, it just read, "The first video on YouTube." In 2010, it read, "The first video on YouTube, uploaded 8:27 PM on Saturday, April 23rd, 2005. The video was shot by Yakov Lapitsky at the San Diego Zoo." In 2015, it read, "The first video on YouTube, maybe it's time to go back to the zoo." In 2017, it read, "The name of the music playing in the background is Darude Sandstorm," which makes no sense because there is no music in the video in question. In 2019, the description read, "Sub to sub, K thanks bye, fast and loyal. If not, I get a subs back. I will unsubs your canal. This made it pretty obvious that, at least at this stage, the channel was definitely hacked, and due to the vague nature of the channel in general, there's no real definitive way of knowing if ownership ever reverted back to Jarwood after the hack. Though he has been shown to have a bit of a sense of humor about the whole thing, and it's possible that, at least with some of these descriptions, that he's trolling.
No, not gonna happen.
In 2020, the description read, "Update video at 10 million subscribers," which inherently was unlikely to happen. And shortly after that, a fundraiser was attached to the video, stating that if they reached $1 million, they'd release a new video. Though, this fundraiser was taken down a day later. A few months prior to this, a link to Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up was added to the description, and this year, in 2021, as of me recording this video, we have the aforementioned description of the Donkey Kong Country cover song. The guy who owns the channel that was linked to denies hacking Jarwood or having anything to do with being promoted on the official Jarwood channel. Needless to say, this is a bizarre mystery that has no real answers. If this isn't Jarwood, the hacker is probably getting a huge kick out of watching everyone go crazy like chickens running around with their heads cut off. However, if this is Jarwood, well, me at the zoo too? Must be the greatest goddamn YouTube video of all fucking time. Think about it. Filming a brief shot of himself in front of elephants at the San Diego Zoo wouldn't be that difficult. For him to allegedly be working this long on it, there must be teams of animators, editors, musicians, VFX artists, you name it. I'm calling it. Me at the Zoo 2 is going to blow us all the fuck away. It's going to unite us in these divisive times and bring about world peace. It's going to kickstart a new generation of YouTube, or maybe Jarwood never existed at all. Never mind. There he is.